Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Mother-in-Law Suite. This week, we got a special episode. This week, I got the host, Zach, and the host, John, from For Your InFilmation podcast. They graciously had me on last week for an episode, a special episode for A24 Midsummer. We discussed a little bit. But here they are, boys. They're on mine. They're on the Mother-in-Law Suite. This is the film suite now, you know? So we're having a good time. How you guys doing today? You guys vibing? You guys doing anything special this week?
Doing super great. Glad to be on.
Yeah. How about you, Zach?
I'm doing great. When do we get paid for this?
Yeah, no.
At the same time I do.
You gotta know the Podcasters Union applies across different podcasts. So if you have someone on a podcast, that's be union approved.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they're already talking about like forming a union now. You know, they're gonna mutiny.
Ooh. Hostile takeover of the Podcasters Union.
John, we can be the podcast union busters.
Oh no, we're gonna Pinkerton our way into the podcast union dominance. That's what we're gonna do.
Hell yeah!
Oh no.
So you guys on your podcast, like the title would kind of presume, you know, you guys talk about films for your InFilmation, correct? You discuss the metrics, the production, the cast, the crew, the plots, everything about films, the in and out. How long have you guys been doing that for?
I think we started at the end of summer 2019. Yeah, so that we're coming up on year 3 now, more or less. We took a bit of a hiatus for a few months, but yeah, I guess we're coming up on the end of year 3, right?
Yeah, so we're in what we call season 3. It's the seasons are meaningless, but it's kind of to denote like years or like possibly a change of format, because we started out just the idea that I had for the podcast at first was to go through like the writing process of a film, because that was what I was very interested in at the time, was becoming a film writer. Not that that's really changed, but the way that we did the podcast changed. So I would focus more on the plot and the story elements and going through how that works. And then it got to a point where I was like, I'm already bored doing this, and we're like 10 episodes in. We're basically just doing plots like summaries.
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, let's add in like fun facts. Let's do all this other kind of stuff. And then it just kind of grew from there.
See, that's my like favorite thing about like side projects, in association or in a similar aspect, like with music and stuff. Like I was talking to John before we started this. I was talking about how I was showing him a band, Between the Buried and Me. I've talked about him multiple times on the podcast. One of the band members, I don't know his first name, but he has a side project. He's the second guitarist, or not Between the Buried and Me. My bad, my apologies. It was Animals as Leaders. The side guitarist has a band called Mestis, and it's just Latin infused. And there's like so you can like kind of see the interchangings. Like I think it was the other one. What I was thinking of was Between the Buried and Me. The lead singer has a side project using his name, Thomas Giles, and it's more of like a poppy kind of like psychedelic weird metal rock thing that he does. It's really cool, but like you get to like see all these like interchangeable like pathways between like what's happening on the scenes and behind the scenes of the movies, and not necessarily just the movies themselves, but the actors and everything. Like, oh, this person's in this movie and they've worked with this person. Like I think you were talking about, whenever I was on there, you mentioned we were talking about Florence Pugh because she was in Midsommar, and you recommended me to watch Little Woman, right?
Yes.
And that is starring Florence Pugh and Timothy Chalamet's in it, right?
Yeah, Timothy Chalamet's in it.
Yeah.
Emma Watson, Saoirse Ronan, like so many good actors.
I was looking at it, and I watched Little Bird because I think you told me to watch that too. But
yeah,
Florence Pugh is in that as well, and Timothy Chalamet's in that one as well. So it's like this weird little, like, you know, everybody kind of knows each other in and out of this industry. But I didn't bring you on here to talk about movies, because that's what you guys do anyways. I want to see what makes you guys tick. You said you went to art school, correct? Or film school. I'm sorry, forgive me, not art. Basically is an art.
Well, my fiance was in art school, so I kind of also went to art school because I helped her a lot. But so yeah, I did go to film school. I call myself a film school dropout, only because I started out as a theater major, and I did that for about 2.5, 3 years, and then I figured out oh shit, I don't like doing theater. Like I don't like doing this professionally. Like this was a fun thing to do from like ages like 5 to 18. I just realized I don't like theater people. I don't like the fact that I'm going to get paid like $50 and like have to pay for my own hotel when I go places to do this. I was just kind of like it's not for me.
Yeah.
So I switched up to film school, but by the time I got there, I was just so out of drive and out of money that
Yeah.
I ended up having to drop out. I'd love to go back at some point,
Yeah.
but it's just not in the cards right at the moment.
Yeah, bro. I mean, I didn't even finish my AA degree. I didn't even get that far. I went in, I did like 2, 3 years. It's so much money. It saps you.
It is, and
It
it's
saps you dry.
when you get to like that third, fourth year, and you know that there's like possibly 2 to 3 more years because you switched your major so late.
Oh yeah.
It's just like, what is the point?
Yeah.
Like they were like, you could do two and get an English degree, and I was like, I guess.
Yeah, an English degree. I guess we all know somebody who either was an English major or is an English major, and then you're like, oh man, an English degree. So I want to be a teacher. That seems to be where a lot of that goes.
It's like the philosophy thing. If you
Yeah.
get a philosophy, like a degree in philosophy or major in philosophy,
Yeah,
what
that's
are you
big of
gonna
me.
do? You're gonna teach philosophy. That's all you're
Exactly.
gonna do.
Yeah, that's
Or you're
super
gonna be
big
a
of me,
prophet. One of
somebody
the
who
two.
studied music, like classical music. I was like, oh,
Exactly.
you want to be an English major, so you want to be a teacher, and then turn around to myself like, I want to be a teacher too, don't I? It's
Oh fuck.
yeah.
So John, now that Zach has his background in film and everything, so I can see how he stems into this podcast. But how did you get wrapped into the For Your Inflammation podcast? What's your story?
So this kind of came about there's sometime before, and this is something we talked about a few times leading up to the actual decision to make a podcast, but we were both interested in podcasting. We were both interested in making a podcast. We just didn't really have a direction. At one point, I think we had done a pilot for a podcast that was formatted more like a Howard Stern style radio show. It wasn't
Yes.
like exactly what you would think of as like a podcast like what we're doing right now. And we didn't end up pursuing it further. Zach did a couple other side things, and I didn't really do anything else in the vein of podcasting up until we started the podcast after that. But we were just kind of talking about it one day, and kind of been inspired by some of the podcasts I've been listening to, and was like, hey, maybe we should do something like this. And then I don't remember if it was you or I that proposed the idea of doing film, but I think we kind of at some point realized, like, you haven't seen this movie? How have I known you for so long and you haven't seen this movie? And here I am not having seen any movies, be like, yeah, I guess it is kind of weird that I haven't seen that movie. And that's where we got our premise, was that like Zach obviously knows a lot about movies. He went to film school. It's like it's a personal hobby and a professional thing for him. And then for me, it's like, well, somehow I managed to be best friends with you, and like I did not pick up on like 95% of all of this film stuff that was going on, like in your life or like in your circles or whatever. So that kind of gave us a platform, I guess, to move into this show. The only thing that I really did bring to the podcast outside of just like being a fresh face to looking at a movie was making cocktails, because that was something that I was pretty passionate about. Never worked professionally as a bartender, but it's kind of a hobby of mine, so being passionate about it and kind of finding a little thing that we could interject, be like, oh, we do this, but we also have this flavor, we have this second thing to put into it. It gives us a little bit more content to work with.
It is really cool because you complement every movie that you guys talk about. You complement it with a matching or pairing cocktail.
Yeah.
Like it really kind of brings out either the origin of where the movie's like located. Like with the Midsummer episode, you did a really like not necessarily citrusy, but like springtime or summertime feel to it. Because you brought out the apples, which is also rooted in. You said it was Sweden, right?
Yeah.
Sweden,
The fruit of Sweden, the national fruit.
Yeah. So it's really cool because even with the robot episode, I think you made like it was like almost like a chocolate milkshake kind of pot, like, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was
I think
one
it
that
was some
Zach
sort of
came
chocolate.
up with. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the
It
Zach
was
one,
me.
Yeah.
It's my sexy little secret that I can make cocktails too. They're just exactly what a 14-year-old would make, because
Hey, bro.
What
I,
14?
my go-to, bro. Me and my buddy will go out and get some like Breyer's coffee ice cream. Get like a little bit of chocolate syrup, some like chocolate covered espresso beans. You put it in there. You fill it up with some Baileys and Kahlua.
Yeah,
Get yourself a nice little coffee cooler thing
that's
going
exactly
That
what
sounds
we said.
amazing.
Yeah,
It's really good.
in the episode
So
where Zach did that, we talked about like what you can do with the mudslide, and you could just throw a bunch of crap in there, man. And like now you have
Literally.
mudslide like that. That
Put
sounds
some
awesome.
peanut butter in it, you know?
Yeah.
Whatever you want.
I meant to mention this on that episode, so I'll do it here. The inspiration for that was to right a wrong that I had made in my early 20s. So me and a former roommate for St. Patrick's Day were like, you know what? We're going to make alcoholic shamrock shakes. And the shake part went really, really well. We put Bailey's, Jameson, and then also like just a shit ton of vodka for no reason. And it was the most vile thing I've ever put in my mouth. But because we had spent so much money on the alcohol for it, we were like, oh God, we have to drink this.
Hey, you know, I mean, a good twist on maybe the Shamrock. You get some like, you get some like maybe chocolate, like chocolate chip mint ice cream, right?
Yes.
And you get some like like peppermint vodka, because they got that spearing off peppermint vodka. You can put some of that in there. Then maybe if you want to add the Jameson in for just a little splash of depth.
See, I think we would have probably thought that through had we not been drunk already.
Yeah, there you go.
That's how it all comes, you know.
Oh yeah, exactly.
It all comes full circle. So I understand you're an aircraft mechanic. Is that right?
That's correct. Aircraft mechanic by trade. Earlier I mentioned I went to school for music, and then I kind of did a bit of a 180 and found my way into the trades. And
fucking Judas.
Yeah, right. Yeah, turned
you
around.
Betrayed the arts.
Got a real job fixing planes. No, but that's actually has been a really big part of my life. It's it's a job, yeah, but I'm also kind of through it have become a bit of an aviation nerd. So like hanging out with people in the community, you run across a lot of really interesting stuff and a lot of really interesting like parts of the industry. Every now and again you get a chance to work with people from the military, because like there's a lot of aviation in the military. We have something coming up where we're going to be talking to somebody that worked on on the Top Gun movie. So that's something that's really, really cool, like the one that's coming out this summer. But
next
it has been
week, actually.
Yeah, it's been a big change of pace for me, but I've liked it. I've liked it a lot, and it has given me a little bit of time and resources to do stuff like this. Had I been like a musician and I kept up just being a musician, I may or may not have actually had the time and resources to put into podcasting. So it's kind of happy little accidents that you can 180 your life, and in doing the 180, you turn around and see so many other doors that can be opened. So like that's been fun for me, as far as the podcasting goes. And I mean, I like the planes too; they're pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, I like planes, who doesn't like something that makes you move through air? We can't do that. I mean, we can jump, but we come back down to the earth.
I just want to say this is now a Disney's Planes Stan podcast. Let's just talk about that.
That's what we're doing. We can also use this opportunity to talk about the Disney Cars ride at California Adventures, because I went to that recently. Yes. Oh my, the animatronics are too real. Like, if you were anything less than stone cold sober, you'd be like, no way, there's no way.
Bro, have you ever been to the Pandora section and the Animal Kingdom section of Disney?
Have not been. No,
bro. Those things are scary.
Yeah,
those ones are really scary.
It's a lot.
They'll like sit there. They're like cheekbones can move, their mouth, their jaws can move, their eyebrows, their eyes themselves, their like hair moves too. How they like, it's the craziest thing. And you're just on this ride, and they like look at you and talk to you, and it's ain't no way, bro.
Yeah.
Like you said.
So another thing about me is I'm a huge Disney parks nerd. So I find it so funny that they funneled all that money into making like the Avatar land, yet they won't fix the fucking Sasquatch at Expedition Everest. So if you've read an Expedition Everest in Animal Kingdom, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, it's the one that it's like it goes up and then it
goes
back
up and
down.
then it goes back down. Yeah.
Okay, so you know the Yeti at the end of it, right? So it's supposed to move and get in your face, but they accidentally made it too heavy. So if it moves, it might actually break the floor. But they have not. They've done all this other maintenance on the ride itself and around it and on other rides, but they have refused to fix the stupid Yeti, and it's very upsetting.
Yeah, that's funny. You know what's also funny is that on the Guardians of the Galaxy ride in California Adventures, they have one of those. They have one of the Yetis from Expedition Everest in the ride. Like it's like an extra. It's like like an Easter egg type situation. You're going through the line because the line is like an exhibit. You know, it's like a deeply immersive like set piece, you know, where you can see like all the stuff from the movies and stuff. It's like, oh wow, it's like real, it's like right here. And then over here, like on the side, it's like the collector, you know, like that's what the theme is for the ride. So one of the things is one of the Yetis from Expedition Everest, like over here on the side. It's really, my wife pointed that out, and I was like, of course you'd know exactly what that was by sight.
So
she's a huge Disney fan
sorry, this reminded me of another thing. Are you both familiar with Kevin Smith's movie Tusk?
Yeah.
It sounds familiar.
Okay, so for anyone that doesn't know, I know we said we weren't going to talk about movies, and I apologize, but basically the premise of the movie is a podcaster goes to interview this old guy at his house, and the guy ends up turning him into a human walrus hybrid. And
human walrus.
Yeah, so just look up, if you're gonna look it up, look up Mr. Tusk, and you'll see what this thing looks like.
Mr. Tusk.
Mr. Tusk.
Jeez. Why do I hate that so much?
Oh my god, I've seen
you. This is also an A24 movie.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Jeez, man.
So, what made me think about this is you saying that the Yeti was there. So at Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash, which is the comic book store owned by Kevin Smith in Red Bank, New Jersey, they have the suit that Jason Lee got into for that thing, just hanging out in the middle of the fucking, like, floor for just the children to be, like, offended at.
Was he opposed in this movie to becoming a walrus?
Yes, absolutely. He was very
so
opposed.
He was like, it was like a human centipede kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just mad scientist abducts someone and is like, hey, I'm just going to turn you into something awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was not voluntary. It was almost Misery-esque.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So with entertainment media, you guys mainly cover movies on your podcast. Do you guys ever have a moment to talk about like television?
Yeah, a little bit. I think it comes up especially when we have actors that are really more prevalent in TV than they are in movies, or maybe they have like one really big TV role and then they become film actors after that. You know, we have that happen sometimes. We have to obviously mention like anybody that was involved in like a major sitcom, because why not?
Yeah.
You know, or if we talk about like a Steve Carell type character, someone like that. But I mean, it's never something that we would like feature, I don't think.
Do you guys, I mean, do you have like special shows that like you would like to discuss?
If I were to discuss a show, I would really like to do a show, like I've seen people do podcasts where they go through like each episode of a show. Mm-hmm. I think the only show I could legitimately do that with would be Arrested Development. Mm-hmm. Because it's one of my favorite shows of all time, and it's the first 3 seasons just stay funny. Like bits and pieces of it probably would be considered problematic now, but it's still just so funny. And like, I've never seen another comedy show where if you didn't watch the last episode, you will have no idea what's going on in the next episode. Like, there are dramas that aren't even like that. So the fact that they did it with a comedy show with a very complicated, convoluted plot is just amazing. And you can also thank that show for Jason Bateman's like resurgence into Hollywood.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, I really love, I think the last show that I was like completely and totally head over heels in love with was Breaking Bad, which I think every straight white guy who was like,
I just finally finished it like not too long ago.
Like 16 to 21 when that show came out was just like, that's my favorite show. This is my identity for at least 2 years now.
It's super on
Hey, I mean, I
brand for
got
me
the
to
bald
say
head, you know.
that I've never actually seen any of it.
You never seen it,
John!
bro. You know, for a minute, I never watched it either, and a lot of people had the same reaction. I just finally got around to it because I think I just needed a break from One Piece. I was watching so much anime,
Oh,
and that show has
God.
1,000 episodes. I was like 600 episodes in. I'm like, I just need to take a break.
So, let me ask you about that. Like, I've never gotten the anime thing. Like, there have been anime that, like, I was into, but I know that there's
Was it like growing up or?
Yeah, like when I was like probably like 10 to like 13, like I was like pretty interested in like Naruto, Bleach, like the really popular ones at the time, and then I really liked Death Note. And what I liked about Death Note was that it was like emo, it was creepy, but it was only like what, 2 seasons?
Yeah, it's not very long.
Like I liked that. And so I think I transitioned into liking like anime movies more than I did series. So like, and then sometimes I see some anime series that people are watching and I'm just like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
Like, why does this box of French fries have titties? I don't understand what's going on. Why?
You know, that's the thing with anime right now is like it has become such a mainstream thing because it used to be so niche and like kind of like, oh, you watch anime like in high school and stuff, like especially in the early 2000s. I mean, I wasn't around then, but like based off like people growing up and even in the 2010s, like growing like watching anime like was semi taboo. You know, I was that kid in like high school that like if I heard my friend said watch an anime, I was like, you loser, like why are you watching anime, right? And then I graduated and then I was like, you know, I'm gonna my buddy sat me down, he's like, okay, we're gonna watch something, right? He said we're gonna watch Cowboy Bebop.
Ooh, that's
And
a
he's like,
good one.
do you
I
know what
actually
that
do
means?
like
Do you know
that.
what that means? I'm like, I don't even know. I'm like, is it a cowboy and a robot? And he's like, no. Like you'll see. And the thing with anime is there's so much, since there's no, you don't have to spend a ton of money on CGI because it's all like drawn or like either via computer or hand. You don't have to worry about like real people and action, or not action but like actual cinematography. Everything's done like by voice and then by just computer drawing or pen and paper drawing or anything like that. So there's a lot more stuff and forgiving things that you can do with anime that you just can't do with normal film.
Right.
Until like now today, which like the Avengers is or Marvel's doing, you know, but that's so expensive and so much CGI and so much like why even make it real life if you can just make the entire movie CGI, you know? Like it's getting to this weird point. I think the appeal of anime is like a lot of the storylines and progression, like you said, especially in like if you're looking for something that happens like immediately after an episode and you have to watch that episode to know what's happening in the next, in like Arrested Development, that's every anime I've ever seen. You can't just sit down and watch an episode and you'll just huh? like if you watch episode 1 and then let's say you go over to your friend's house and they're on episode 17 and this kid that was in episode 1 that couldn't even lift his arm up off the ground, right, is now like holding 3 swords in one hand and then fireball in his teeth, like, you know, like how did he get here? You don't know. Nothing makes sense. So you got to watch this progression, and it's a really like kind of set in stone, like this happened and this happened and this happened. Like in One Piece, for reference, I'm on episode 680 something, 660 something, right? There are characters that are getting referenced from like 300, episode 300, 330.
Jesus.
That you would just have no idea if you didn't watch it. They'll give you like flashbacks and stuff because there were no reruns in Japan, like whenever you watch something like that. So if you miss it, you have to either record it or find something online to watch it or buy the box set. But so they have like recaps and stuff. But other than that, even the recaps are confusing sometimes if you don't have context.
That's insane.
Yeah. So it's like it's a really interesting like story building. One Piece is a bit more like it's weird. There's like categories to anime. Shonen's like directed towards like like high school, like middle
Adolescent
school to high school,
men.
yeah, boys. And then there's seinen, which is like the equivalent for girls. And then there's like it goes on. I don't know all of them, but there's like some that are directed towards like a more older group, and then some directed towards like specifically kids. And there's also like comedy and action. And the thing is since it's such a big like thing right now and it's been taking off, like there are so many different genres that you can go into. Like Evangelion, there that's sci-fi. Cowboy Bebop is sci-fi. You got you, um you got like Comey Can't Communicate, which is like just a slice of life, like high school kind of story. You got Your Lie in April, which covers like intense depression and like medical issues with people, and it can like help people out, like figuring out how to cope with like people with cancer and things like that. There's
Wow.
a lot of anime is like teaching you life lessons. It's really weird how they like implement these like weird like kind of things in it, but it's I think it's cool. It's plus like some of the animation is like sick. Like if you watch Goblin Slayer, you can see this dude like the world is basically ending in this plot line. There's the Demon King and he is like annihilating the earth basically. He is like
Fuck
just
yeah.
wreaking havoc, right? This guy don't care. He's out killing goblins. They're like asking him to help. They're like, please, you can kill this guy. You can kill the Demon King. We need your help. He's like, no, I got goblins to kill, bro. Like he's just ignoring it. Like it's just like it's cool. It's neat. There's a bunch of fantasy. There's a bunch of everything. There's just so much you can do with it that you just wouldn't be able to do with normal TV. If you pitch it to a TV show director or a company or something, they'd be like, a guy that's killing goblin when the Earth is dying. Like, why is he doing that? Help the Earth, right? Like that would never be made.
You know what's funny
Where does
is
shit-
that the goblins, like, you never hear anybody saying, oh, I saw a fucking goblin. Like, everyone's always like, oh,
Yeah.
I saw a Bigfoot, or oh, I saw a ghost, but you never see a thing where somebody's like, on the nightly news being like, dude, I swear to God, he was this tall, he was green, he had like a burlap sack on, he was carrying around a little broken fork, and I saw a fucking goblin, man, I saw a goblin. And so we had a running joke in our house for a little while where I'd be like, man, stop, I saw a goblin.
It's a goblin.
Yeah, that was the thing we were doing for a little while, which was really, really funny. But it's funny you should mention goblins because nobody gives the goblin enough love in pop culture, I think.
Yeah.
Look, listen, there's one true Goblin King, and that is Truett Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A. Next time you go into Chick-fil-A and they have that motherfucker's picture on a wall, tell me he's not a goblin.
Goblin
Truett
King.
Cathy did not die. He went back underground. He had been in the sun too long. He has been baked. He needs to go back underground. But that's really cool about anime. I think the one thing I like to bring up to anime people is like, where does like Shin-chan fit in your like watching?
Shin-chan?
Like I don't know. I think I'm never saying it right. It's like it's like a really gross anime. It's like this little kid. I can't describe it.
I might not be familiar with it.
Oh fuck.
Shin-chan. Oh, okay, I see it. Okay.
It was like on a like OG Adult Swim. That's the only reason I remember it.
I've never seen this.
It's disgusting.
I mean, there's definitely shows like this. Based off what I'm looking at, it's like a satirical kind of weird art style. There's a show called Nichijou that I watch, which is it follows these like two. I think they're two high school or like what is it? There's high school and then there's middle school in the South, but then there's like a middle high school thing that they have in other places. What is that called?
Like a junior high?
Junior high or
thank
like
you.
preparatory
It's like
school.
I think it's like two junior high school students, right? These two girls, and they're like in this class, and they're going about their day. But about this show, it's like if someone like let's say like someone pisses them off, they'll just pull out a gun and shoot them in the head.
What?
Like
This sounds like
they like steal their lunch and they're just like, give me that back. And then they don't die, but they come back up and they just give them their lunch. You know, like it's like an attack on like a children's imagination or something. But it's just like there's just so much you can do. I mean, like you don't have a TV show where this kid just pulls out like a Gatling gun or an RPG and just shoots the classroom.
That's
They're
pretty,
like pissed off.
I
It's weird.
That's so
this sounds like Did you ever play River City Girls?
No, River City Girls.
So, okay, now I have to go even back further. Have you ever played Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the game?
I've never played the game, but I know Scott Pilgrim.
Okay, so they made a 8-bit, 16-bit style game out of that movie slash book series, and it's probably the best licensed game I've ever played, maybe besides like South Park Stick of Truth.
South Park Stick of Truth was a good game.
It was an amazing game. Anyway, so the people who made that Scott Pilgrim game then went on to make an original game, River City Girls, and it is like Super Meat Boy level difficult.
Yeah, it reminds me of like the old Avengers game on the Sega Genesis.
Yes.
Or not? Yeah, yeah.
Definitely
so
big
it's like
inspo.
it's a street brawler.
Yes.
Sick.
So with anime and how you said like there's a little bit of everything now, and like you can find so many different genres, like hypothetically speaking, since you obviously know a lot about anime, and like Zach, you probably know a little bit more than I do, because I don't know if this is surprising to you at all. I also don't know like anything about anime. There's like Fruits Basket, and there's Naruto, and there's Boku no Pico or whatever the fuck. Like that's one I heard really bad.
Hold on. I know
we don't mention that one.
I know why he's bringing up Fruit Basket. So at the middle school we went to, they had manga in the library, and mostly what they had was Fruit Basket.
That's a strange one to bring up. That's like the one about the host club, isn't it?
Yes.
So, well, what I was getting at was like, if you had like a like a pick your pie, like build a pizza type scenario you're gonna make an anime, what does your ideal anime look like? Like what are those types of like settings or like characters or like whatever that you want to see in your ideal? Like when you go shopping for a new anime to watch, what are you trying to get in that anime?
It's really dependent on what I'm in the mood for and what I have been watching.
Also, like pizza.
I like a lot of like I find the genre I return to the most, I really like slice of life, which is weird because a lot of people that don't watch anime or do watch anime and usually will only watch like shonen because that's like a good introduction, because it's like epic fight scene, like that's what I'm watching for. I want to see this guy rip his throat out, like or something, like do something crazy.
Go Vegeta.
The thing is like in slice of life, like you're just seeing some dude like go to school or like go to college, and whenever they do something that's entertaining, like so they can do this like mundane thing going to school and stuff, but they like go to karaoke or something, you're like, oh my god, this is gonna be insane. Like because they're actually doing something with their life, and I think it's like it adds this like weird little level of like entertainment, because there's lack of it, that when there is a little bit of something, it just makes it that much better. Okay. And it's a bit weird if you don't watch it or you don't understand it. But one of the shows that I watched recently, which is one of my favorites, I might get some flack for it. It's called My Dress Up Darling. It's pretty good. It's about this kid. He get his I think his dad died, and he lives with his grandpa, and he's like, his grandpa makes those I forget the name of them, but they're these dolls that you give your kids whenever they're like 5 or 6 and they kind of choose their path. It's like a Japanese tradition thing.
Oh, okay.
It's and he's like, he hand makes them. Hand makes these dolls out of wood, and then he like sews the clothes together and like makes the hair, puts the hair in the dolls and everything. And since this kid has lived with his grandpa since he was like 4 years old, 3 years old, that's what he does. He like learned how to do that, right?
Right.
And ever since he was a kid, he always got bullied for like playing with dolls, is what people would say, right? But he was just making them. That was like the family business. Well, come to high school, like I think it's his first year in high school, and he doesn't want anybody to know, and he's trying to be quiet and everything. And their sewer, I think it was like a manual, like foot operated, pedal operated sewer. You have to pump it at the house. It broke, so he went to the school sewing room, like at the high school, to see if they had like an electric one, so he can kind of get an idea. One of his classmates walks in, sees him sewing, and he's like freaking out because he's like, they're gonna know that I sew and this is lame, and they're gonna bully me, But she's like, holy shit, you know how to sew? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, help me, please. Like she wanted to like be a cosplayer, and she needed someone to help make costumes for her. So like it's this weird interesting dynamic of this guy that like has always had this like looming like I've never been accepted kind of thing over his head, and then now finally someone's like kind of accepting him as to who he is and stuff. And it's like you can see this progression of like her growing up, not growing but like getting bigger into a new what do you call it, like cosplayer star kind of thing. She's getting followers on Instagram, and not only is that happening, since he's sewing so much more with like for costumes and things for like actual people, his doll making is getting better because he's spending more time getting more delicate to like I guess attention to detail with the costumes and everything and the references that she's been showing him, and plus he's like being aware to more things that he's looking at. So it's like a really interesting weird progression. But then, like I said, I'll talk about a show like that, and then I'll go back to like Goblin Slayer or Attack on Titan, you know, like
Yeah.
and Attack on Titan's about these behemoths that wipe out cities, and right now there's literally like a genocide happening in the last like season. Like it's weird.
I have seen a little bit of Attack on Titan. That one I'm a little familiar with. I think most
yeah.
people are these days.
So it's. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if you're interested in that kind of anime and like that kind of storytelling, there's actually a film movement from like the 2000s to now called Mumblecore. Mumblecore. The only one that is coming to my mind right now is a movie called The End of the Tour. It stars Jesse Eisenberg and Jason Segel, and Jason Segel plays Infinite Jest author David Foster Wallace, and it's also coincidentally like one of the last times he interacted with the public. It's like a press tour, and literally the whole movie is just them talking and going to like little things, and like a character may show up.
I love talking. Like I don't know why, but I think talking is like one of my favorite parts about like entertainment. Entertainment media at least.
You may love Mumblecore then, and also you may really like Clerks.
Clerks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Clerks is literally all talking.
It's dialogue. It's all dialogue. They got nothing else going
like
for
Uncut Gems.
Yes.
Uncut Gems too. That's a good one. That there's like that's the entire movie is him just like spouting, just going on a rant. It's insane.
That movie gave me so much anxiety. I thought I was gonna have to go back on medication. I was genuinely shocked at the dread and fear I was feeling the entire time. Almost to the point where like the ending almost made me feel better, even though it's a horrible ending.
It was just done. It's just done.
It's just over.
But the reason I started talking about TV shows and other aspects of entertainment media that isn't necessarily film, I was talking about I wanted to mention, have you guys seen the show Severance on Apple TV?
I have not.
I would highly suggest, if you were to take any of my recommendations that you've heard of the last 20 minutes about me talking about anime or anything else, ignore all that and listen to this. Severance is a really good really good show. It's a 9 episode, about 45 minutes per episode, give or take. Some are 30. I think some are like like 39, 38 minutes, and some are like an hour. It is directed by Ben Stiller. Believe it or not, a very good show. The concept is there is a big tech company called Illumination or something like that, and the severance department is a department in this place, and you have to undergo a procedure to sever your memories from your outside world. So your life outside, you don't know your mother, you don't know your family, you don't know any memory, you don't know your name, you don't know your birthday, you don't know nothing, right? And it's as long as you are inside that department. When you leave the department, it's the same thing, but you remember everything you knew then beforehand. You just don't know anything of what's happening in that department. So essentially, you're making like a slave of yourself for like 8 hours of the day.
Ooh, that's super interesting.
So all of the characters are playing 2 different people at all times. It's really cool.
And it stars Adam Scott of Parks and Rec fame.
Yes.
And that's awesome. I'm definitely going to check that out.
It's a really good show. A really easy watch too, because you'll watch one episode and you'll sit down and you'll watch another. Me and my mom finished it in like 3 days. We watched 3 episodes a day.
Nice.
It's a really good show.
Yeah, I think somebody did mention this to me not too long ago. Someone made the recommendation. Now that you're describing what it's about, yeah, because I didn't remember the title, but yeah, that's super interesting. Like, you would have somebody that goes to work and then they choose to not remember anything about work. Hopefully, like in an effort to like make their work life balance better, because like they don't have to worry
Mm-hmm.
about work all the time because they can't remember anything about work on purpose. And then when they get to
Exactly.
work, they don't have to worry about the stuff at home because they literally cannot remember anything about it when they get to work. But that could clearly become like a problematic place where like you can't do anything about what's happening at work because you don't know what's happening at work on purpose. It is a really
You
really
can't
interesting
exactly.
concept.
So like on the aspect of that is like even further, like if you're like, let's say you're a hardcore drug addict or something, right? You don't know that if you're in work. Like if you're at that place, you don't know what's going on with you. You
That's
don't know what's
true.
happening because you just don't know what's happening outside.
That's such
I'd
an
love
It's it's
interesting
that.
idea.
it's really cool. It's a really cool show. They don't know anything about themselves. They don't know it in the it's this weird thriller, and there's this just always constant eerie feeling, and they make it's like very minimalist. So like it makes you uncomfortable, but it wouldn't make them uncomfortable because they don't know any different.
Right.
So it's like it's so the set design, the plot points, the cinematography, all of it, the dialogue, the script, everything, all of it. It's a phenomenal show. Very very good show.
That's really interesting as a plot device because it's almost making you, as the viewer, the omniscient narrator, because
Kind of.
you're the only one who understands what's going on.
Yeah, you know the story. You know the full story, but the characters don't
That's so
at all.
cool. That's so dope.
Yeah, it's a
I'm
really good
definitely
show.
watching this now.
Yeah. Um but from now on, I think we're gonna touch away from that sanction of entertainment media, at least the visual kind, and we're gonna go to the auditory kind, right? Right?
Ooh.
Ooh. You mentioned earlier, and I was talking to you before the podcast, John. You went to music school, correct?
That's correct. I was a music major for 2 years. Two
You
years.
like the booms and the pals and the guitars and the
Oh
and the
yeah,
and
all that good
the
stuff.
the yeah, all the drums, everything. You like it all. What's your do you have a genre of choice? What instrument of choice? What do you tell us about it?
You know, that's funny because I kind of got funneled into doing a lot of different things over the years that I was like actively like a musician. Like that was my main thing. You know, I kind of picked that up in high school and like I started to learn the saxophone in middle school. Actually, me and Zach played saxophone together through middle school. So, fun
Hmm.
fact
You
for all
played
you.
saxophone. I pretended to know what I was doing for at least 4 years.
If you say so. Um, in high school, I kept playing, and the high school band director asked me to learn to play the bassoon. And so that's where things kind of took off for me musically, and that's where I kind of decided that music was something I was interested in professionally. So, like at age 14, I already kind of had an idea that I wanted to go to school for music and that I wanted to have a career in music, whatever shape that took place of. And in doing that, I ended up getting into like playing bass, playing guitar, messing around with percussion and like recording and arranging and all kinds of stuff like that. That was basically all I did in high school. Was like, you know, obviously my classes and everything else was like music directed. You know, so like did the marching band. I was in like jazz band. You know, Zach was in the theater department. You know, we do musicals and stuff. We actually had a live pit orchestra for our musicals, and so
Oh, that's
I
sick.
would play in
That's really
those
cool.
too. Got kind of to touch on everything that was in front of me. And then when I went to college, I stuck with the bassoon. So I played all the other instruments on the side. You know, either I was like in a band doing something over here, like traveling to do a gig over here, playing saxophone or whatever. But I played the bassoon for classical, and that was my main thing for 2 years there. And I played a little bit of everything over the years. I think classical is really special. You know, like I think that's really great. But I'm fully willing to acknowledge that it is kind of a dying art, and that I don't think
Oh,
that
I
it's
love classical.
everyone loves classical, but nobody goes to see it. You know what I'm saying?
I'll challenge you. I'll challenge you though. I don't think it's a dying. I think live performance classical music is gonna die. I think the live performance aspect of like going to there's not going to be like another John Philip Sousa. There's not going to be another Bach. There's not going to be another like Chopin. There, Chopin's more piano, um but the thing is I mean, I guess we have computers, but you're always going to have the need for like Michael Salvatore from like the Halo 3 soundtrack like production. You're gonna always need a Hans Zimmer
That
for
is true.
film. It's like film score is gonna, that's what classical is gonna turn into, is just, it's like film scores and the big string and orchestral kind of like styles of music. That's where it's gonna shine through. I think at least now with all the movies and everything coming in. But at the same time, like I think the same conversation was kind of being had about jazz, like about 5-10 years ago. Jazz was kind of dying out, but
Yeah.
now there's so many different styles of jazz. There's like the jazz fusion, there's Japanese jazz fusion, there's um I don't know, rock inspired jazz fusion.
No,
There's still
you're
The Latin scene's
You're
huge right
totally
now
right
too.
about all that. Absolutely. And for someone like me who is really most interested in like a live orchestra type music, I think it becomes a logistical issue to a certain point where, yeah, with the advancements of technology, you can do a lot with just computers. But you're right. There's always going to be movie orchestras. There's always going to be orchestras that specialize in like video game music or whatever it is that they have to have. But the fact of the matter is, if you have an ensemble of 80 plus seats,
Oh
each one
yeah.
of those people has probably at least a master's degree in
Oh
studying
yeah.
music.
For
Well,
sure.
yeah, and how many people are actually spending money? And you have one of these things in every major American city. Overseas, it's kind of a similar situation. That's a lot of people, and like the even right now, it's kind of impossible like for a performer to find an actual like sitting gig that they can make a living on. And so that's why the gig economy is so big in music. It really always has been,
Oh yeah.
but more so now than ever because the internet allows people to connect with gigs, so it becomes a viable form of employment, I think. But it's hard on musicians. Like when I was in
Oh
school,
yeah.
my professor who's teaching me, he had a master's degree in performance. He also had a background in engineering. He got a dual bachelor's in mechanical engineering and music performance. Went on to get his master's in music performance. He searched for years to land one gig that could support him. It was just him and his wife. They didn't have kids or anything, and it was kind of hard to watch him go on that journey because he tried so many times to get like the job that he wanted, and how many times he had to be said no to find one. And I listened to
Yeah.
that guy play, and I was like, "There's no way, man. This guy's so much better than me." I'm glad he got what he wanted. He finally got there, and he really got the gig that he was looking for all those years. But man, it was hard to think that that was him, and he's so much better at it than I am. So I
Yeah.
kind of pivoted away from it at a certain point, and I think in the years since, I that was 2015. Spring 2015 was my last semester studying music. And since then, I've taken a step back from it and I've really allowed myself to just enjoy music again and not really have to worry about it professionally or having to worry about like, am I spending enough time practicing this? Am I doing this right? Am I doing this other thing that nobody else? There's so much that goes into trying to do that as a profession, but there's so much to enjoy about it when you don't look at it that way. And so to answer your question, as far as like genres that I like folk. Like I play guitar and
Yeah.
like that's kind of stuck with me a lot easier because it's easier to do by yourself. And I really love that. I think jazz is great too. I've always loved jazz and I still listen to jazz. Even getting out into like rock music and stuff. I like classic rock. I like blues a lot. Like I think Little Wing by Jimi Hendrix is just like that
Hmm.
is so nice. It's so good. Like there's like little
Yeah.
gems like that all over the place that I really like. But I'm willing to sink my toes into just about anything, and I don't mean that in like you see the memes where it's like, oh, I listen to all genres, and then it's like, what about free jazz or like something
Yeah.
like that. I will listen to that. I truly will listen to just about everything. But to answer your question, yeah, I think the thing that's piqued my interest most in the past year or so is like folk rock, acoustic rock type stuff, which seems kind of vanilla, but a lot of storytelling can be done there. I kind of was on a big Bob
Oh, for
Dylan
sure.
binge last year, and kind of digging into the deep tracks with Bob Dylan, be like, wow, this is like there's like a lot to that, and it's I mean he's like what is he a Nobel laureate or a Pulitzer Prize
Yeah.
winner or both? I don't know. I mean, the he's a writer that uses music as his medium, and I think that's great. And that was not a concept for me when I was playing classical. That was not a thing on my
Yeah.
horizon, really. And like, yeah, I knew about it, I knew people did it, but it wasn't like something that was realistic. But when you really spend some time with it, you're like, oh yeah, I get the appeal. I see it, like it's real. It's in front of me. You have a relationship with it in a sense, and I had to step back from it professionally to get to that point.
Yeah. Bro, you bring up a good point that like with folk, especially like with Bob Dylan, it tells a story. There's a lot of story that can come from it. Like coming from like a pretentious prog nerd that I am, like like I listen to like it has to be the cleanest thing, it has to be the cleanest riff, it has to have, it needs to be at least 15, 16, one, at least one measure, it's something crazy has to go on. But like I'll find myself listening to like Johnny Cash, Like there's no complexities there. It's just this man with a guitar singing.
Yeah.
Like, it's you'll go around and like, don't get me wrong, I love the flair and I love the musicianship that it comes from being really skilled at an instrument or being really skilled like at least like songwriter, not necessarily lyric writer, but like composer. um I've always had like an eye and like soft spot for that, but like it really is nice to just kind of sit back sometimes and listen to like just that tried and true, just something to get you going, something that really has a story, something that means something.
Yeah, I would actually recommend, since you've mentioned that you're into prog, I know we kind of talked about it a little bit off air. I'm really into that too. I think that's super rad. But you find some that can do both. You find some people who are like really great arrangers, or maybe they also play the other instruments and they're kind of like a one-man band in a recording studio type situation. But they manage to not like undersell the artistry of what they're doing at their core. So like someone that I discovered a few months ago was Nick Drake. So Nick Drake was the singer-songwriter from the 60s and early 70s. He's no longer alive, but some of his music is like so interesting. Like for the time where you had like The Who, where you had like Led Zeppelin, or like all these other like crazy awesome rock bands, this guy kind of shines through in being really unique with what he was doing and like his arrangements. Like it's kind of like it's almost, there's like a certain kind of somberness, even it's hard to describe, but it really connects with me, I guess. And he does more than just sing and play the guitar. He puts other stuff in there. He makes an atmosphere, but it's very organic. And I think if you like that type of thing, I would definitely recommend listening to him. The album
Absolutely.
Pink Moon, I think, is the one people know best, but it's super super interesting, and it's really really great.
All right, all right. I'll raise you one too. If you said you like folk,
Yeah.
and as you can tell, you like prog as well. The bet genre at this point is like subjective. I feel like there's so many genres and there's so many like
Yes.
mishmashes. Um, there's a band called Little Tybee. The best way I can describe it is post progressive folk rock,
Hmm.
or post folk progressive rock maybe, or post rock progressive folk. I don't know, something along those lines. Um,
There was this band from Mexico that I used to listen to called Maga de Os,
yeah,
and they were very much like that.
Maga. How do you spell that?
I
Maga.
I could not tell you. I don't remember.
It,
All I
oh,
remember.
I found it. Mago Deos. So Magodeoz. It's the
Yeah.
pirate school. Pirate?
Yes.
Yeah. I found them. Spanish folk metal outfit with a strong Celtic streak. Bro, I like Celtic music too.
Oh yeah. Celtic music
Don't
is
get me wrong. But Little Tybee, bro, if you give them a listen, I think you won't disappoint. Especially since you said you like Thank You Scientist earlier on when we were
yeah.
talking. Another one of my
Fuck
favorite bands.
yes.
Thank you,
Very,
Sage, is
very,
so
very,
good.
very, very similar.
They're so
Very
goddamn
similar, but
good.
it's soft. Little Tybee's so soft. It is like very. It's not fast, but it's still complex and it's still quiet, and he still has this like sweetness to his voice, but it still has something. I don't know. That song I saw him live when I went to go see Chan, and I didn't listen to them at all. That was like one of the few bands on that tour that I didn't know anything about, and I wanted to go in blind. And I swear that were the best band there, like better than the headliner.
You gotta
And I
love
thought it
that.
was sick.
Yeah.
It was so cool, and just the atmosphere, the way they were all moving together on stage, they really felt the music. They were there. I mean, it's really cool. But to stray away from the music side of auditory entertainment, we're both podcast hosts here. We're all podcast hosts here. The
Right.
three of us. Right? So do you guys listen to any podcasts other than your own, or even if you listen to your own, you might not? Some people don't like hearing their voice. But are there any podcasts that you've listened to, or have you always listened to them, or have you never really listened to them? Anything?
Oh, I'll pass this one off to Zach first for sure.
So I've been listening to podcasts since I was probably in middle school.
Yeah, me too, bro. Okay,
I
let's go.
so this is probably embarrassing and is going to date me so hard, but the first podcast I got super duper into was the Muggle Cast from Muggle.net, which was a Harry Potter fan site, and they would just they would take things chapter by chapter sometimes, or they would just talk about like Harry Potter in general. They would make like Harry Potter recipes, and I was fucking stuck on this podcast. And mind you, this was when you had to physically download the podcast onto your computer and put it onto your iPod. This was shit that no one would do ever.
I remember this.
Can you imagine not being able to hook up your phone to your car in some way, downloading a podcast, putting it onto a CD, and then putting it in your car? This is the shit we're talking about. It is. When I think about that, I'm like, I cannot believe that I live in such two different times. But that was the first one I got really hooked on. And then, like, there's been other ones that have gone in and out. I mentioned I really like Disney Parks earlier. There's a great podcaster / mainly YouTuber, Defunct Land, who talks about, like, defunct theme park rides, mostly Disney and Universal, but he also talks about other ones. There was another one called Crying on Main Street, formerly Crying at Disney, and they took like Disney as a it was like Disney but goth, they're both goth, so they like talking about Disney from a goth perspective, and I really liked that. Growing up in the like kind of like alternative punk DIY like kid scene, so I was like, I really relate to this.
Yeah.
And I think the podcast I've loved the most in my life is probably Last Podcast on the Left.
Yes. Love Last Podcast on the Left.
It is something to behold, and it makes me sad sometimes that my show is not that, because they're just so good at what they do. If you haven't heard of them, they're a true crime podcast with a comedy spin. So mainly what they'll do is they do very thorough, in-depth research about serial killers or paranormal phenomena, and then they'll like just talk shit about the serial killer. Like, they'll just make fun of him for, like, literally, like, a 3-part series that ends up being, like, 9 hours long. And they're just shitting on this guy the whole time.
Yeah, it's easily...
fucking brilliant.
Yeah, it's easily my favorite, like, driving podcast. Like, if I'm going on a trip, I'm downloading 5 or 6 episodes of the Last Podcast on the Left to listen to, because it's just so entertaining and it's so good. Like, you could listen to it for a whole day straight and not get tired of it. Like, they really do have a good thing going on there. I'm going to go ahead and like spoil my spot in this and just say that is also like probably my favorite podcast. It's just, it's so good. Like it's so well put together, and they have a rapport that just plays really well. And they do all kinds of other stuff. Like they released a book. I don't have the book, but Last Book on the Left, I think is what it's called. You have the book? Oh, of course you have the book. Did you get a signed copy? Oh, yes. Motherfucker. I wanted the signed copy of the book and I never got it.
Give me your Black Star amp and you can have it.
That's that might be a trade right there. Ooh. Yeah.
Fuck you, dude. Get up here. When you come up for my wedding, just bring the amp with you. You can have the fucking book.
Oh man. Well, I guess for me, obviously, Last Podcast on the Left is a super big one. They have another podcast that I really like called No Dogs in Space. It's actually big into that one. No Dog's so good. It's the same podcast network. They have a whole network there. But that one is music. So they do like the history of a band or like a musician. And they'll do a whole like docu-series podcast on it. It's a little less comedy driven than Last Podcast on the Left is, but it is super informative. It's the same host. Well, same host. One of the three of the trio that does Last Podcast on the Left does it with his wife, and it's great. Like it's super good. Some of the other ones I've listened to, going all the way back. It's funny, Zach, that you should mention that MuggleCast thing, because one of the first podcasts I ever did was what they called a video podcast. I guess that was the thing you could do back in the day, called Sea of Idiots. It's super hard to find out because it's really dumb, but it's like a slice of life show that, like, you're talking about slice of life anime. This is kind of like a slice of life, like, animated show. It's not an anime. Don't gratify it by calling it that. I'll have to send you the link to it. It's really hard to find, but it does exist on YouTube. And I would do that thing that Zach was talking about, where you download it, you put it on your iPod, manually or whatever, and then you have it on there. And it's like the iPod Nano 2 or 3 was like the first one you could get like video on. That's the one that I had, and I was like, oh, I can watch videos on the iPod. I got this video cast on the iPod. That's so cool, because it was 2007 or 2006 or whatever, and that's what she did. And
John,
yeah,
do you remember when I got the iPod Classic?
Yes.
And we were like, fuck yes, we're gonna watch movies on this.
Standard definition, 2-inch screen, brick iPod.
David Lynch cries.
I wasn't old enough at the time to get my own. I'm a baby. I was born in '98, so I'm a bit young. But whenever my sister got her iPod, I think I was like in elementary school, maybe just getting into middle school. Like I was pretty young, and we would go on road trips. And I remember watching like All American Rejects, like music videos on her iPod in the back of the car while we're like going places.
Man, I had the Metallica 1 music video that I had on my iPod.
Yeah. Or the OK Go one, with the one with them on the escalator, not the escalators, but the treadmills.
Yes.
God, what a legendary music video.
I had
that actually won the award for a long time for like the cheapest music video production cost.
That's funny. That's funny. And I believe that. Yeah, that's actually super on brand, Zach, that you have Across the Universe. I finally watched that years later. It's a great movie.
It is an okay movie. I wish they would have done better. Evidently, they're doing a sequel. Why? I don't know.
A sequel, not a remake. A sequel. All right, sure.
Sequel.
Some of the
a continuation
of Across the Universe. What does it go into like the 70s where things get like really dark? is that what it is? Like,
I guess
they realize that you can't just have lead and gasoline anymore. That's like a thing you can't do. Like, I don't
you mean I can't? I can't pay for a sandwich with a song? What the fuck is this, man?
Right? You should move out here. You'd love it here in California.
No, I'm gonna move to Portland. I can be a scarecrow. That's a job you can have out there.
I love that. I love Portland. Portland's fun. Yeah, so with the podcast, like, that was the first podcast, and then later on, got access to XM satellite radio, now like Sirius XM. Ooh, and one of the shows on there was the Jason Ellis show. So the Jason Ellis show kind of plays similarly to a like a Howard Stern radio show type thing. But because it's satellite radio, there aren't really any restrictions on the content they could do. So it was really interesting to see like a truly unadulterated, uncut show like that. And it played a little bit like a podcast for a while there. And I was really interested in that. So when I no longer had access to SiriusXM Radio, they actually did a spin-off podcast, or at least what the co-host did. His name's Michael Tully, called I want to say it's called The Tully Show. You can probably still find it. I think he's still doing episodes.
I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, Michael, he's super funny. He's like, he does stand-up comedy and stuff, but he's also obviously like a radio host and podcaster. He does all that fun stuff. I think they're in a band called Hate Bean, which is pretty funny if you ever get the chance to listen to that. But yeah, it was funny to watch him do that. And I think he co-hosted with like Mark McGrath, the singer from Sugar Ray, if you remember that band. So he's on there all the time. It's super funny. But yeah, they do they're big in the 90s. But listening to that, and I want to say there's one other big podcast that I'm missing here. I can't remember off the top of my head. But last podcast on the left, the Tully Show, are probably some of the two bigger podcasts that kind of influence, I think, my part in podcasting and like what I like about podcasting.
Yeah. See, whenever my I think I think in 6th grade or 7th grade, and I got my first iPod Touch. That was when the first iPod Touch came out with the camera on the back. I think it was the first one with the camera on the back. It was like I remember, and that was like when they first started implementing the fact like you could download it from like the app, like the podcast app on the iPod, right? That was like, it was like the first or second generation of that. And I remember getting it, and I got it because like I said, I would always kind of like steal my sister's when we would go on road trips, and I would listen to it, or I'd like borrow one of her earbuds, and she got tired of it.
Yeah.
So they're like, she's like, please get him one, so he doesn't listen to mine all the time.
Share
right?
earbuds.
So I finally got one, and my grandfather listens to gospel.
Yeah.
And we'll go on road trips that are like 10 hours long. And I can only take so much gospel, and I'm sure as you a music major yourself or music nerd, like I don't like listening to music if there's other music playing, man. I don't want to hear two tempos, two different key signatures happening at once. I don't want to hear it,
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
No.
super
So
distracting.
I had to drown it out with something, and I started listening to podcasts like on road trips, going up there and coming on back. And I at this point, like, I was, like I said, like I'm a kid, so like I watched like a lot of Minecraft videos and played a lot of Minecraft in middle school. So I started listening to like the Yog Pod, the Yogscast. I don't know if you guys are
Yeah,
familiar with the
Yogscast. I remember
Yogscast,
that.
but I listened to the Yog Pod. They had a podcast, and I listened to that like religiously. I think I've listened to that thing 3 times through and through, and they're still going today. Not as Yog Pod, but as Triforce, and it has Lewis and Sips from the original Yogscast, and someone that they added not recently, but not an older member. His name's Pyrian Flax, and I swear some of these podcasts are so boring, but it's like Pyrian is a dad and Sips is a dad and Lewis is not, but he's 35 years old. So it's like two dads and this like this guy just just sitting there and talking about their kids, or talking about how they don't understand the today's youth, or like how old they are or anything. It's the funniest thing is because they're like, yeah, my son like went in there and the baby like threw up all over the floor, and my son came in there and he's like, Dad, can you like can you read me a book? And he's like, son, not right now, man. Like, can you see that I'm like dealing with something? Like, it's just like mundane, like just ordinary stuff, like them going to the store and just seeing some like ridiculous thing happen. Like, I love that just like relatable kind of sense, because there's like really not much they do. They literally get in there and they talk about their week for like an hour.
That's
It's
awesome.
so funny. I've been listening to that literally since I got my iPod. I finished every episode. Another one is Cox and Crendor. It's this guy named Jesse Cox. He used to do like he still does. He does like some video game playthroughs and some like he has a series called Jesse Sells Out where he gets um like sponsorships to make like videos and stuff like that on YouTube at least. But he made a podcast with his friend Wild Crendor, which does like World of Warcraft content. And it's called Cox and Crendor in the Morning, and it has this like it's like this weird little jingle. It's like an alarm clock buzzing, and it's like he starts out the show, and they talk about like they talk about what happened for during the week for like the first 20 minutes, and then they go into like a weather section, and they go on like weather.com and type in like some random coordinates or something, and read the weather for the for that state or for that city or wherever. It could be
Interesting.
like Ireland, it could be in the middle of like I don't know, Iceland. It could be anywhere, like
That's
where they
awesome.
read this thing. So they read that, and then they'd make up a traffic section. Then they'd talk about sports because Krendor is like a sports nerd, so he'll like um, talk about like baseball or football or basketball or anything that's happening that season. And then they'll just go on and read like usually a Florida man story. I
Florida
don't know.
Man story.
Yes,
That's a good one.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
So what's it like having
those
to
are like the
live with the ubiquitous Florida Man? Is it?
oh I am the Florida man.
Oh, I
So
see. You are. Yeah.
so it's yeah.
It's like I
Yeah.
again haven't seen the movie. It's like V for Vendetta, where everybody puts on the Guy Fawkes mask or whatever, and like all of a sudden,
Yeah.
oh, we are all this. It's like Florida Man. It's like they start picking on
We are all
Florida Man. You're
Florida
like, we're
man.
all Florida Man.
We all embody him in some sort of way, but it's just one of those things. It's always kind of sat in a special spot in my heart. And I think that's like why I like maybe slice of life or anything like that for anime. I just like people talking, and I like relatability. I think that's what it is. It's just relatability. I've done that. Oh, I've been in that position. Oh, I know how that is. You know, like it's just
For
that's the kind of
sure.
thing that I
Yeah,
look into. But
I see what you
you
mean.
know, we're coming into the section, the part of my podcast where you both seem to like music, at least some sort, you know. So I would like to ask you both for some recommendations for me, myself, and the viewers at home.
Okay, yeah. Well, I think I might have touched on this a little bit when we were talking about kind of my background in music and like how I kind of started doing it for pleasure a little bit more instead of like for. I'm not going to say sport because that's not really appropriate for a profession or a prospective profession. Kind of came into getting back into like folk or more like you know straightforward types of music. So I think Nick Drake, the Pink Moon album, is something that I would recommend just about anybody listen to. Um,
Okay.
it's really pretty music. It's really pretty music, and it's pretty interesting lyrically as well. So I can't recommend that enough. As far as other things go to listen to, you ever listen to Wet Leg?
No,
Like a
but
new
it
alt
sounds
band.
fun.
I
I want
think
to.
they had their debut at I want to say it was Coachella like a couple of months ago, and they're pretty interesting. They're like a new British alt band that they're just kind of quirky, like off the wall type stuff. To be really, it's they have like fun music videos and stuff. It's like they're like painfully British. Like it's a good time. So I would also recommend looking at Wet Leg if you do have the time and are interested in something a little different. I think.
All right, wet leg. WETLEG.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. All
Like
right,
I said,
Zach.
painfully British. Tons of fun.
Bro,
So,
I love me some British. I love British music sometimes, bro. Go. What you got for us, Zach? What you got in store?
so my music taste is kind of like always changing, but it usually pretty much sticks in the punk DIY like spectrum, and especially right now with My Chemical Romance coming back, I've been digging back through my childhood a little bit. I've
Yeah.
pretty much been listening to the new My Chemical Romance single like nonstop, even though like I'm trying to tell myself not to do that because I'll get sick of it before the album comes out. Um, Bands that I've been in love with for like pretty much my entire like adult life would be My Chemical Romance, The Wonder Years, the Front Bottoms. There's just so many. I've been in love with so many. Sorority Noise, Joyce Manor, things like that. So like very like a lot of those are on labels now, but I've been following them since before that. So like
Yeah.
I'm just very into like any kind of DIY sound. Like if it sounds like garbage, I'm like,
Yeah.
someone had to believe in this to do this.
It's the diamond in the rough, bro.
It's the diamond in the rough. Speaking of things like that, like I've been trying to dig through things that I previously found difficult to listen to. So, uh, I've been trying to get into Zappa and Captain Beefheart lately. They finally put Trout Mask Replica by Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band on Spotify, and I'm going to guess that neither of you two have heard of this.
No.
Can't say that I have.
So-
I'm gonna be
No.
honest. No.
Trout Mask Replica is the most interesting, unlistenable piece of garbage you will ever listen to. It's there's a lot of polyrhythms going on top of other polyrhythms. It all sounds like it's made up jumbled mess, but it is insanely rehearsed. Like it's
What is the what name one more time for me, please?
the name of the album is Trout Mask Replica, and the artist is Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band. And
Okay.
even the
That
album
reminds
art
me of
is like just grotesque. Like the entire album is disgusting. It's from the 70s. It's produced by Frank Zappa. None of it like rhythmically it all makes sense, right? Like rhythmically I understand what you're doing, but none of it goes together, but yet it somehow goes together, and it is uncomfortable. It's like one of those like skin crawl type things. It's like, this is odd, and it's getting into my soul, and I don't like that.
Kind of sounds like you're describing Melt Banana a little bit.
A little bit. It's kind of like that.
the name reminded me a lot of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
They
Oh,
are
man.
fucking awesome.
King Gizzard is so
Yeah.
good. They really are. No, we're big fans. Yeah, no, we love that.
I really want to get their I can't remember what album it is, but they put a Zoetrope on the vinyl record, and I want it so bad.
Bro, honestly, solid choices. Thank you. You guys actually gave me some like decent recommendations.
Hell yeah!
I'm gonna. I think I'm gonna throw Soapy under the bus. But last time he was on, he gave me Hotel California,
Look,
but
he's
the
a-
live version.
Soapy loves
Don't-
dad rock. Soapy, Zach, do you know what he means when he says Soapy?
I know what he means when he says Soapy, and I'm going to tell you right now that Soapy is an unabashed Imagine Dragons fan, and I think you should bother him about it.
For those of you
I
that
know.
don't know, Soapy is my brother. like my biological brother. So
I meant to mention that earlier, but I just never found a way to push it in.
He's
yeah, that dude that talks about 40K.
Yeah. Oh man, we used to do 40K together. Yeah. No. He's always loved the Eagles. Like that's just a band he's always loved. He has dad rock taste, and I mean, as a man who has a Led Zeppelin tattoo, I can't really talk shit about Chris.
I mean, I love it. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I love me some Hotel California. I'll listen to it. I'll sing along.
Can I tell a quick story about his Led Zeppelin tattoo? Because I actually technically owe him an apology. So our friend group growing up, we all loved Led Zeppelin in middle school, as most people do. And we were all like, we should get the 4 symbols of Led Zeppelin tattooed on us. And I think the 3 of us all forgot about it, except John.
Yeah.
John went and got the tattoo, and none of us ever went and got the tattoos.
So now you know what you got to do.
Yeah.
Bachelor party idea. That's what it is. You got to go get your other you got to get your Led Zeppelin tattoo.
What's worse is that Nathan, one of the other guys that was in this little group there, he was there with me getting the tattoo.
No, that was me. I was there.
You were also. I could have swore that Nathan was the one that instigated that.
No,
like, you're getting a
it
tattoo
was me.
today. What? There's no. Ah, my God. I'm getting old. I must be like losing memories now. There's no way that I could forget that. Oh man, good time though. Good time.
Good times.
Good time. Led Zeppelin. I recommend Led Zeppelin. No,
I want to go out on a limb and recommend Led Zeppelin to everyone.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Very niche band. Not very people. Yeah. Not very many people know it.
What you gotta do is get into their deep tracks. You gotta like listen to the Lemon song. You gotta listen to the Rain song. You gotta listen to Black Mountainside. White
Fool
Summer.
in the Rain.
Oh, Fool in the Rain. I don't know if that's a deep track.
least.
I think it's a radio single.
It's just the least Led Zeppelin track.
I don't know. It's flowery enough. It's what they were going for. Did you read the biography Hammer of the Gods? I did.
Fuck no. I was too busy reading what is it called? It is a book about the Norwegian black metal scene.
We were talking about this. Me and Tim were talking about black metal.
I can't remember what it's called. I think it's Lords of Chaos, but
that must be it. Yeah, no, that's definitely a book.
It is a fascinating book. It is fascinating how that all happened, and I'm scared of white people. that is what that comes down to.
I'm terrified too. Don't worry.
Terrified, utterly terrified. Oh man, Zach,
I'm just kidding, of course.
No,
Zach, it's funny to listen to you like retrospect on the pop punk thing. I didn't really bring it up too much, but I also really love pop punk. We still have a running joke about the Neck Deep Zoltar Speaks album, where every time I see one of those little fortune teller guys that it says Zoltar Speaks on the top and bottom, I have to send Zach a picture with some like bass boosted inspired lyrics from the Neck Deep album.
It's phenomenal.
We have a good time. I think the last time I saw one, I was in Santa Ana, and there was one.
And the last time I saw one was in Wildwood, New Jersey.
What were you doing over there, I wonder?
Oh, well, I was definitely going on a well-deserved vacation, but they also had an Ocean Avenue. Which made me very happy.
Yellow card. So good. So thanks for taking us down memory lane, Tim, because
you're welcome.
Clearly we
this
needed
is
to unpack
what I'm
a
here
little
for.
bit.
This is what I'm here for.
I still can't believe my high school senior quote is a Yellow Card lyric.
Oh,
bro, my high school senior quote was "Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition," so
I
feel
love
anything's
that.
better than mine. I wanted to say a naked woman lying in a pond distributing swords is no viable basis for a system of government. I wanted that, but my mom works for the school and she's like, I don't think you can say that.
Oh, that's funny. I
so
said
mad.
mine was life is like a box of chocolates. People are always trying to tear you open and eat your insides, and they let me put that in there.
Oh my god, my mom was like, yeah, it's talking about like naked girls and swords. I'm like, I'm like,
have you
it's
not
a Monty
seen
Python quote, please?
Have you not seen Heavy Metal, Mom?
Why he mentioned it too now. Yeah. We talked about Heavy Metal Fact 2 earlier. I'll show you here in a minute, but I have a Heavy Metal Fact 2 sword over there in the corner.
Me and John are almost the same person. We are the same person, different aesthetics. That is
Oh
really
my
what it
god.
is.
Jeez.
Oh my god, different astrological signs. Maybe what is your astrological sign, Zach?
I'm a Virgo, I
Oh,
think.
I'm also Virgo. We're actually not different. Okay, sure.
Yeah, you're like barely a Virgo. It's the same as my fiance is barely a Leo, but I don't know what any of that means.
I'm a Libra. God knows what that
I'm
means,
a
but that's what I
Libra.
am.
It's
I
fun.
guess,
It's a
yeah.
way for them to sell you
That when
creative coffee mugs.
whenever someone says I'm a Libra, I can't not think of drag queen Adore Delano. She says that on one of the seasons on RuPaul's Drag Race. She just goes, "I'm a fucking Libra," and it's just like that's all I can hear anytime someone says that.
Now that's something I want on a creative coffee mug.
Oh my god. All right, boys. All right, boys. I think I'm gonna get to my recommendations real quick.
Let's
I
do it.
got a pretty niche band. Guys may have never heard of them. It's called Army of Hearts.
Oh no, Army of Hearts.
He's doxing us. It's just like I said on our podcast. He's taking our masks off. No one knows
not
who
on
Army of
Spotify.
Hearts is.
It's not on Spotify, but you can find them on Reverb Nation. I've never heard of this website until today.
John, deny.
But yeah, it's a pretty cool, interesting black metal band. Some might classify as noise band.
It's definitely
pretty
noise.
good. It's
We didn't know what noise rock was when we made this.
This is organic.
but that's a good little treat he showed me earlier. But to get into the release radar this week, or not this week, but recently, Kendrick Lamar released his new album. Can't remember the name of it. It's The Big Steppers. I
Mr.
know.
Morale and the Big Steppers.
Yeah, very good album. Highly recommend it.
Definitely
I did
a step
enjoy
up
it.
from Damn, for sure.
I think N97 was probably my favorite track. My least favorite track was the one where he's screaming at the chick the entire time.
See, I loved
hated
that.
one.
I loved
couldn't.
that.
It gave me anxiety, bro. I was like,
It was too real.
It's cool. It was really real. There's some other things that have come out. The Algorithm released a new EP. They're like an EDM instrumental, like progressive metal band, and then they released a new EP. There's a guitarist named Chimp Spanner. He produced, I think, a new EP as well. Chimp Spanner, no, it's a single, just one song, Hyperdrive. Chip Spanner's an instrumental progressive metal artist, kind of. He does his own little thing, similar to like Nick Johnston, I guess. Pretty interesting. Pretty interesting stuff. Another one that came up, I think it was Home Shake. Home Shake is like, I don't even know what to classify them. It's like a very kind of lo-fi-esque, one-man band kind of production artist kind of. It's very, very interesting, laid back, kind of vibey. It's not EDM because it's not like fast paced or nothing, but it's like sound production. It's really cool, lo-fi kind of sound production with vocals. He released a new EP, and then I think Thrice released a new single as well. Dead Wake and Scavenger's acoustic version. So there's a few things that have come out. I think there's a few more things. Buried Alive, not BUR, but BERRIED. Buried Alive. They released a new little, I think either EP or single. And then Avocado Haze. This is a band I follow a few people on Instagram that kind of like shout out like lower or smaller artists. Avocado Haze is this guy who kind of, I think he listens to a lot of like Chon and kind of like math rocky kind of stuff, and it can reflect on his music. And he released a new song too. He's a really good upcoming guitarist, really neat, really nice guy. But
that kind of reminds me.
That's about it.
Have you ever listened to Strawberry Girls?
Yes, I love Strawberry Girls.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, very good band. Also, I remember another one. My apologies. Sigrid. I have a soft spot for Sigrid. She's like a Norwegian pop singer. She released a new album. I listened to it the other day. Very good. Like unironically very good. I really enjoyed it. Really cool. I think that's it. Um, a recommendation that's not a release radar or a new release. Alluvial came out, or not came out, but Alluvial came out with an album in 2021, and I have been listening to that again recently, and I have really enjoyed it. Very good little album. About 10 songs. Very fun to listen to. Very cool band. Their first album was purely instrumental. The second one has vocals, very good vocals too, and it's really exciting to see them move in that direction. But other than that, I think that's it for that. I think we're there. But boys, thank you very much for coming on, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. This was fun.
Yeah, it's been super great.
Yeah, definitely. You might, the viewer, I'm talking to you. You might see a little bit more of these guys. We got something brewing. But I think we're gonna end it here. I think it's time to kick everyone out and close the curtain, shut the doors, lock the door. So viewers, get on out of here. I don't want you here anymore. We aren't talking to you. We don't want you. I'm not listening to you. All right. This is my house. And I'm telling you to get out. All right. So I'll see you next week. Maybe. No, I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening. Talk to you later. Adios. Au revoir. Auf Wiedersehen. Sayonara. Guten Tag? Yeah, Guten Nacht at this point.
Yeah.
Guten Nacht. Yeah.